I want to welcome you back to session 2 of the Other Side Coaching Moments. And I just want to let you know I really appreciate you taking the time to prepare for your role as a small group host. And if your group is rotating hosts and you're hosting this for the very first time, good job. I just want to let you know God's with you. And as you get ready to do the group, this short video will give you the help that you need to prepare. Also, if this is your first time, make sure to watch the host segment called Host Watch This First and check out Host 101 in the back of your study guide. It'll really help you. So if you did the open chair exercise in session 1, there may be some new people who are going to be joining you this week. You want to make a point of welcoming them. They may be the first to arrive because the others don't care if they're just a little bit late. And when the meeting starts, ask them to introduce themselves and ask them how they heard about the group. And you want to make sure that you have the returning members also introduce themselves again, sharing their name and one thing they got out of last week's meeting. This is a great way to easily give new people a bunch of good reasons why they should stay in your group. Also, you want to be sure to remind your group about the open chair at the end of this meeting. Remember this, Jesus wants all of us to have the same heart that he has for people who aren't connected to God and his family. So I want you to continue to think and praying about others who might be willing to join the group if you just simply invite them. Now, you may be thinking, we've already have 7 or 8 people, or maybe you're 11 or 12. We don't have any more space in our living room. But there's a solution for that. It's called subgrouping. And that means instead of making one big circle for the whole meeting, you have people gather in smaller circles of 3, 4, 5, maybe even 6 after the teaching segment. You can have 2 circles in the living room, or one can go in the dining room, or another comfortable spot in your home, or wherever you're holding your small group. So if you've got a large group, but you don't want a subgroup for the small group, you may want to do it for at least the prayer time so that people can share a little bit more. Subgrouping in a smaller groups for prayer can really help make sure the quiet people who are going to be, they can be a little bit more willing to share during that time. After all, when people feel heard, they feel loved. And when they feel loved, they're much more likely to come back. And if they're in a circle of 15 people and they're not heard, there's a good chance they're not going to come back. So whatever setting you think would work best for your group, you're going to want to make sure that people feel comfortable sharing about prayer needs that they may have. Now, next, I want to talk to you about ways to involve more people in owning the group. And one is the prayer and praise sheet in the back of your study guide. So ask for a volunteer to keep track of the group's prayer requests and the answers to prayer. If you're going to subgroup into smaller circles for prayer, just have one person in each circle pass on the circle's prayer request to a person who's keeping the sheet for the whole group. That way, everybody knows what's happening with everybody else, but you can pray in smaller circles. Now, a second way to involve people is to ask for a couple of volunteers to plan a group social. This might be a potluck meal, a night out at a restaurant, a barbecue with everyone's kids joining in, or whatever it may be. Now, who are the group members who love to throw parties? Tap them on the shoulder and say, hey, look, you got this. Now, the final thing I'd like you to do is I want you to be willing to pass the baton to another person to host the next meeting. This is a great way for you to see the study through the eyes of people who have a different mix of gifts. And it'll also push them to grow fast and really step up and meet the challenge. Well, that's it. Thanks so much for listening to this. And remember to pray for yourself and your group as you prepare. And I want you to know that God's listening and you're going to have a great meeting.